Hi, so I'm Roisin, and I was diagnosed with anorexia quite a few years ago now. And over these years, I've done various posts for Eating Disorders Awareness Week, talking about my own experiences living with anorexia and the reality of living with an eating disorder. But this year, I wanted to talk about something a bit different, because since I first became ill, awareness of eating disorders has definitely improved. I get way fewer people making crude comments to me, and it definitely feels easier to speak out. But despite this improvement in awareness, it actually seems like services and access to treatment are getting worse. So to put it bluntly, the UK is facing an eating disorders crisis. Referrals are only being accepted for those with the most extreme illnesses, and even those who are getting accepted are facing such long waiting times, in some places up to 25 months. And these long waiting times have a massive effect. People's health declines, their quality of life declines. It becomes an incentive to stay ill or get worse so that someone will help you. And it makes you doubt whether you deserve treatment or not. Eating disorders make you do that anyway, and it just feeds that message. The NICE guidelines recommend that ED patients should have equal access to treatment, regardless of age, gender, sexual orientation, where they live, etc. But that's just not happening at the moment, because it depends on how stretched a local service is. It's an utter postcode lottery as to what you get. And that's not fair. Where you live should not determine the treatment that you are able to receive, but it does. I get quite a lot of people getting in touch with me saying they've got a loved one with an eating disorder, someone who's struggling, and they want to know how to help them get support. And I will always tell them to go to their GP, and the GP will be able to refer them on to services. But nowadays, I really do feel like I should accompany that with a caveat that they're going to be waiting a really long time. And I know that all too well from my own experiences. And during this time on these super long waiting lists, it's so likely that their loved one is going to plunge further and further into this illness, which is horrible. Anyone who's lived with someone with an eating disorder or lived with an eating disorder themselves knows just the extent to which it can tear your life apart and tear your family apart. And waiting lists just exacerbate that. And even when people are accessing the services eventually, that's not the end of it. The current situation is meaning that in some authorities you get a limited number of sessions, and if that doesn't work for whatever reason, you're discharged, even if you're in a worse state than when you first arrived, to be honest. And I just find this abhorrent. Can you actually imagine doing this with other illnesses? Saying to someone, oh yeah, the first lot of chemo's not worked, so off you go and wing it and come back when things are worse, and we'll try again maybe once things have deteriorated even more. You just wouldn't do it, but it is what is happening every day to people with eating disorders. And this is meaning that people such as myself are being forced to either spend money, which often they don't have, on private services, or wait until they relapse back to the point of needing long-term inpatient treatment, meaning someone loses more of their health, well-being and time to this illness, and it's not on. And to put someone in an inpatient unit costs a damn sight more than they would if it would for the NHS to have just provided adequate outpatient treatment in the first place. So none of this makes any sense, but it is what is happening. So this Eating Disorders Awareness Week, I want to ask you to contact your local MPs asking for things to change. With this video, there's a link to Beat's template for doing this, as well as a link to the End the ED Crisis Now campaign website, where you can find an open letter and loads more info about things you can do and things you can get involved with. Because recovery from an eating disorder is possible, right? I truly believe this. I wouldn't still be trying and fighting if I didn't. But without appropriate and timely treatment, which acknowledges an individual, it is so much less likely. And we're seeing people dying because of this. These people who are dying could have recovered. And whilst awareness is important, what we really need to change with urgency is at the level of policy. It is the funding for these services, because that is what is going to save lives. So if you can take just a few minutes to contact your local representative, that would be so appreciated by me and loads more people just like me. So thank you very much for listening.